All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle a concept that sounds pretty complicated, but is actually at the very core of how we learn. Well, anything at all. It's called the hermeneutic circle. Think of it as the hidden engine running in the background whenever we try to make sense of the world. Have you ever started learning something new, maybe reading a really dense book or trying to wrap your head around a complex idea, and you just feel like you're going in circles? Like you can't even figure out where to start? Well, I've got some good news for you. That feeling, that sense of circling around a topic without landing on it, that's not a sign that you're failing. It's actually the very first step in the process of truly understanding something. You see, that circular feeling isn't a bug, it's a feature. Okay, so let's dive into this. How can going in circles possibly be a good thing? In this first section, we're going to pull back the curtain on this idea and really look at the basic loop of learning. So, here it is, the big idea. The hermeneutic circle is this constant back and forth dance. It's a cycle where you're always revisiting and refining your interpretation. You start with what you already think you know, you run into something new, and that new piece of information changes your whole perspective. And this whole process can be broken down into a few clear steps. First, you always begin with your existing knowledge, your pre-understanding. Then, you start looking at the details, the individual parts. Those parts make you step back and rethink the big picture, the whole thing. And once your view of the whole changes, you go back and look at the parts again. And suddenly, they look totally different. Every loop you take just deepens your understanding. Now, what's really interesting is that this process actually operates in two key ways at the same time, which creates two different but related loops of understanding. You can see these two dynamics right here. So, on the left, you've got this loop between you and the text. Your personal experiences and what you already know completely shape how you first read something. But then, what you read changes you. And on the right, there's a loop happening within the text itself, between the parts and the whole. Understanding a single sentence helps you grasp the entire chapter, right? But understanding the chapter then changes the meaning of that original sentence. It's this constant, productive cycle. So where in the world did this powerful idea come from? Well, it wasn't invented in some modern university classroom. Its roots actually go back thousands of years, and it started with a very practical problem. Way back when, early thinkers, especially theologians like St. Augustine trying to interpret sacred texts, kept running into this exact paradox. To understand a single verse, you needed to know the context of the entire book, but to understand the whole book, you had to understand every single verse first. They were wrestling with the hermeneutic circle long before it even had a name. The person who really put this all together and formalized it was Friedrich Schleiermacher. He's often called the father of modern hermeneutics. And his huge insight was realizing that this part-whole problem wasn't just for dusty old books. He saw that it's at the very heart of all human understanding, every conversation, every single experience. But the story doesn't stop with just understanding texts. In the 20th century, some philosophers took this idea and made a massive leap, applying it to human existence itself. You can actually trace this evolution pretty clearly. After Schleiermacher, you have Dilthey, who applies it to fields like history and psychology. But then comes the real game changer, Martin Heidegger. He argued the circle isn't just a method we use, it is the very structure of how we exist in the world. And later on, Gadamer refined this even further, describing understanding as a kind of conversation. So Heidegger's crucial point is this, that pre-understanding we talked about earlier, it isn't some bias we need to try and get rid of. In fact, it's impossible to eliminate. Who we are, our experiences, our culture, our history, is the necessary starting point for any understanding. We can never, ever be a blank slate. And building on that idea, Heidegger and Gadamer gave us this really wonderful concept called the fusion of horizons. He said that real understanding isn't about us imposing our view or just trying to extract the author's original meaning. It's a dialogue. It's where our world merges with the world of the text, creating a new, richer understanding that neither of you had on your own. Okay, so we've gone from ancient philosophy to modern research labs? Absolutely. This is not just some abstract idea, it is a very practical tool that researchers use every single day. So in fields that study human experience, like phenomenology, the hermeneutic circle is a core principle. It's a constant reminder to researchers that their analysis has to be cyclical. They have to keep moving back and forth between interview data, their own interpretations, and the larger context. It's an acknowledgement that understanding another person is a process, not a single event you can just check off a list. So after all that theory and all that history, what's the big takeaway? Why does any of this matter for you in your everyday life? I think it really all comes down to this. Understanding isn't some destination you just arrive at. It's a continuous journey. It's this dynamic process of moving between the details and the big picture, between what you thought you knew and what you're discovering. And that means it's totally okay not to get it all at once. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What complex topic, what new skill, what challenging book are you circling right now? I want you to embrace that circle, because it's not a sign of confusion, it is the very path to understanding.